The elegant dining room of the Harrison family mansion felt suffocating as I sat across from my sister Emma, watching her perfectly manicured fingers trace the rim of her wine glass. Our monthly family dinners had become an exercise in endurance, each gathering a fresh opportunity for her to remind everyone of my apparent failure. "So Sarah," Emma's voice carried that familiar note of condescension, "still running that little vintage clothing shop downtown?" I took a slow sip of water, hiding my smile. If only she knew that little shop was just a hobby, a front for my real empire. "Yes, Emma. Still there." My parents exchanged that look I'd grown accustomed to over the years, a mixture of disappointment and resignation. In their eyes, I was the daughter who had thrown away a promising future in finance to play shopkeeper. "You know," Emma continued, reaching for the crystal decanter, "my tech startup is really taking off. We're meeting with a major investor tomorrow. One of those mysterious Silicon Valley types who practically owns half the tech world." She paused for effect. "The kind of success you could have had if you'd stuck with your MBA instead of this." I thought about the stack of investment proposals sitting on my desk at Vertex Ventures, my private equity firm that managed over $12 billion in tech investments. Emma's startup was just one of hundreds seeking funding this quarter. She had no idea she'd be pitching to me tomorrow, or rather to Alexandra Stone, the reclusive founder of Vertex. "Not everyone needs to run a tech company to be successful, Emma," I replied mildly, passing the bread basket to our father. She laughed, that sharp, dismissive sound I'd heard so many times before. "Of course not. Some people are content with smaller dreams." Our mother jumped in, ever the peacekeeper. "Emma dear, perhaps we could talk about something else. Sarah's shop is quaint, and she seems happy." Quaint. The word echoed in my mind as I thought about the meeting scheduled for tomorrow. Emma would walk into my sleek downtown office, expecting to meet the legendary Alexandra Stone, never suspecting that her failure of a sister was the billionaire investor she'd been desperate to impress. I hadn't planned it this way. 10 years ago, when I left my promising career in investment banking, my family thought I was having a breakdown. The truth was, I'd seen an opportunity they couldn't understand. While working at Goldman Sachs, I developed an algorithm that could predict market trends with unprecedented accuracy. Instead of sharing it with my employers, I quit, sold everything I owned, and started trading with my own money. The vintage clothing shop was perfect cover, a small business that nobody would look too closely at, while I built something bigger in the shadows. The first million came quickly, then 10 million. By the time I started Vertex Ventures, I had turned my initial investment into over $100 million. Now, 5 years later, I was one of the most influential tech investors in the country, not that anyone knew my real identity. "Tell us more about your startup, Emma," our father encouraged, beaming with pride. "Sarah, you could learn something here." Emma straightened in her chair, practically glowing. "Well, we developed a revolutionary AI platform for predictive analytics. Our preliminary numbers suggest we could corner the market within 2 years. We just need this investment to scale properly." I nodded, thinking about the flaws I'd already spotted in her business plan. Her company's algorithm was derivative, their market analysis superficial. Tomorrow's meeting would be interesting. "The investor we're meeting," Emma continued, "they say she's brilliant but absolutely ruthless. Alexandra Stone. Have you heard of her?" I nearly choked on my water. Ruthless wasn't a word I used to describe myself, but the media loved painting that picture. "The name sounds familiar," I managed. "Of course it just sounds familiar to you," Emma rolled her eyes. "You're too busy color-coding vintage dresses to keep up with the tech world. She's practically a legend. Nobody knows what she looks like. She's never appeared in public or had her photo taken. But she's got this incredible track record of picking winning startups. If only she knew that her mysterious investor spent her Sundays sorting through vintage Channel and Dior, finding homes for beautiful pieces of fashion history. Some people prefer to stay out of the spotlight," I offered. "Please," Emma scoffed. "When I'm running a billion-dollar company, everyone will know my name. I'm not going to hide behind some mystique like Stone does." Our mother touched Emma's arm proudly. "You always did know how to command attention, dear. Unlike Sarah." She glanced at me apologetically. "Well, some people are just more suited to smaller ventures." I excused myself to use the bathroom, needing a moment alone. In my purse, my phone buzzed with a message from my assistant. Ms. Stone, final background checks on Harrison Tech completed. Several red flags in their financial projections. I typed back quickly, meeting still on for tomorrow. I want to hear their pitch. When I returned to the dining room, Emma was showing everyone her company's website on her tablet. See, we've already got interest from major players. Tomorrow's meeting is just a formality, really. I mean, who wouldn't want to invest in this? I thought about the 3 other AI companies in my portfolio that were light years ahead of Emma's technology. It looks interesting, I said diplomatically. Interesting? Emma's voice rose slightly. It's revolutionary, but I wouldn't expect you to understand. How's the vintage handbag business going? Actually, I smiled. I just acquired a rare 1956 Hermes Kelly bag. The previous owner was a tech executive who lost everything in bad investments. Interesting story, really. Emma missed the warning in my words, too caught up in her own narrative. Well, after tomorrow, I'll be able to buy all the designer bags I want. Not secondhand ones, of course. As dessert was served, I watched my sister hold court, detailing her plans for after she received her investment. A mansion in Pacific Heights, a private jet, a yacht, perhaps. Our parents hung on every word, occasionally glancing my way with pity. I thought about my penthouse overlooking the bay, the private island I bought last year, the fleet of cars I rarely used. None of them knew. None of them had ever bothered to look past the surface of my little shop to see what I was really building. I should head out, I said, standing up. Early day tomorrow. Got a shipment of vintage dresses coming in. Emma smirked. While you're sorting through old clothes, I'll be securing my future. Don't worry though, once I'm successful, maybe I'll let you handle my dry cleaning. I hugged our parents goodbye, enduring their well-meaning but condescending advice about it's never too late to go back to finance. As I walked to my car, a deliberately modest Audi rather than the Bentley parked in my garage at home, I couldn't help but smile. Tomorrow would certainly be interesting. What Emma didn't know was that I'd already thoroughly investigated her company. I'd seen the inflated projections, the technical shortcomings, the questionable market analysis. Tomorrow, she would walk into my office expecting to dazzle Alexandra Stone with her revolutionary vision. Instead, she would learn some hard truths about both her business and her assumptions about success. As I drove home to my penthouse, I thought about how appearances had always mattered so much to my family. Emma, with her designer clothes and loud ambitions, was their idea of success. Me? I was the disappointment who had settled for less, the cautionary tale they whispered about at family gatherings. But tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, Emma would learn that sometimes the biggest success stories are written by those who work quietly, away from the spotlight. Tomorrow, she would discover that her mysterious billionaire investor, the woman she'd been desperate to impress, was none other than her failure of a sister. I smiled as I pulled into my private garage, thinking about the look that would cross Emma's face when she realized the truth. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving others wrong, it's letting them prove themselves wrong while you build an empire in silence. The next morning, I arrived at Vertex Ventures headquarters 2 hours early. The entire floor-to-ceiling glass building belonged to my company, though officially it was owned by a web of holding companies that all led back to Alexandra Stone, my carefully crafted alter ego. My executive office occupied the entire top floor, with views of the San Francisco Bay that still took my breath away. I deliberately decorated it to project power while maintaining mystery, minimalist furniture, abstract art, and strategic lighting that would keep my face in partial shadow during meetings. Miss Stone, my assistant Michael appeared at the door. Harrison Tech's team has arrived. They're 30 minutes early. Of course they were. Emma always did like to appear eager. Let them wait in the conference room, I instructed, adjusting my outfit one last time. I'd chosen a Tom Ford pantsuit in charcoal gray, with subtle Bulgari jewelry, elegant but not flashy. My hair was swept up in a sophisticated chignon, and I wore glasses I didn't need, another layer of disguise. Also, I added, make sure the cameras are recording. I want to document this meeting. 20 minutes later, I watched through one-way glass as Emma paced the conference room, smoothing her designer dress repeatedly. She was accompanied by her technical co-founder, their CFO, and, to my surprise, our father. Daddy decided to come support his star daughter, I murmured to myself, checking my watch. Time to begin. I waited exactly 7 more minutes, long enough for Emma to start fidgeting, before entering through the private door. The effect was immediate. Emma's practiced pitch smile faltered slightly as she tried to make out my features in the carefully arranged lighting. Good morning. I kept my voice deliberately lower than usual. I'm Alexandra Stone. Please be seated. Our father leaned forward, squinting slightly. I saw a flicker of something cross his face. Recognition, perhaps, quickly dismissed as impossible. Miss Stone, Emma began, her voice pitched higher than normal. Thank you so much for meeting with us. We're incredibly excited to present Harrison Tech's revolutionary AI platform. I gestured for her to continue, saying nothing. Emma launched into her pitch, complete with flashy slides and ambitious projections. I watched as she promised impossible growth rates, claimed technological capabilities her team couldn't possibly deliver, and dramatically oversold their market position. Finally, she finished with a flourish. With a $50 million investment, we'll dominate the market within 2 years. Any questions? I let the silence stretch for a moment before speaking. Several, actually. Let's start with your core algorithm, the one you claim can predict market trends with 99% accuracy. Yes. Emma beamed, it's completely revolutionary. Interesting. I pulled out a tablet, because I'm looking at your technical specifications, and they seem remarkably similar to a pattern recognition system that was developed 3 years ago. In fact, I pulled up a side-by-side comparison. They're almost identical. The blood drained from Emma's face. Her technical co-founder suddenly became very interested in his shoes. That's just a coincidence, Emma stammered. Is it? Like how your market size calculations conveniently ignore 3 major competitors? Or how your financial projections assume a growth rate that no company in this sector has ever achieved? Our father cleared his throat. Now see here, Miss Stone. No, Mr. Harrison, I cut him off. You see here. I stood up, walking around to their side of the table. Your daughter's company has inflated every metric, oversold every capability, and essentially created a fantasy wrapped in technical jargon and pretty graphics. Emma's lips trembled. You don't understand. Actually, I understand perfectly. I reached up and removed my glasses, stepping fully into the light. I understand exactly who you are and how you operate, Emma. The room fell silent. Emma's mouth opened and closed wordlessly. Our father gripped the table edge so hard his knuckles turned white. Sarah, he whispered. Surprise? I smiled, not entirely kindly. The mysterious Alexandra Stone, the billionaire you've been so desperate to impress. She's your little sister who runs that tiny vintage shop. Emma shot to her feet, her chair clattering backward. This is impossible. You're nothing. You sell used clothes. No, Emma. I run a $12 billion investment firm. The vintage shop is just a hobby, something I love doing when I'm not managing one of the largest tech portfolios in Silicon Valley. Our father found his voice. But how? I walked back to my side of the table, enjoying the shift in power. Remember when I quit Goldman Sachs? Everyone thought I was having a breakdown. The truth is, I developed an algorithm, a real one. Not the copied version your company is trying to pass off as innovation. I used it to trade my own money, built it into a fortune, and then started Vertex Ventures. Why didn't you tell us? Our father asked, his voice small. Would you have believed me? You were too busy celebrating Emma's every minor achievement to notice what I was building. I turned to my sister. By the way, those market trends you claimed to predict last quarter, you got them from one of my subsidiary company's public reports. Emma sank back into her chair, her perfect facade crumbling. So you brought us here just to humiliate me? No, I sat down again. I brought you here because you need to learn some hard truths. Success isn't about appearing successful. It's about building something real, something valuable. Your company, as it stands, is smoke and mirrors. What are you going to do? Emma whispered. Tell everyone. Ruin me? I pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. Actually, I'm going to offer you a choice. Option 1. I expose the flaws in your business and you face the consequences of your deception. Option 2. You accept a smaller investment, $5 million, not 50, with the understanding that you'll rebuild your company the right way, with proper oversight, real innovation, and no more shortcuts. Our father reached for the folder with trembling hands. You'd still invest? After everything? Family is family, I said simply, even when they've spent years mocking your choices. Emma was crying now, her expensive mascara leaving black trails down her cheeks. I don't understand. You let me treat you like dirt for years. You sat there at dinner last night and listened to me brag about meeting Alexander Stone. And it was quite entertaining, I smiled. But now it's time for you to decide. Do you want to keep pretending to be successful, or do you want to learn how to actually build something meaningful? The next hour was intense. We went through their real numbers, their actual technological capabilities, and what it would take to turn their company into something legitimate. By the end, Emma's perfect posture had crumpled, but there was something new in her eyes. Perhaps the first glimmer of genuine humility I ever seen there. As they prepared to leave, our father lingered behind. Sarah, I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything, I replied. Just stop measuring success by appearances. That evening, I went to my vintage shop, among the carefully curated pieces, each with its own history and story. I felt more at peace than I ever had in the corporate world. My phone buzzed. A text from Emma. I'm sorry. For everything. Can you teach me? Really teach me. I smiled, running my hands over a 1960s dyer gown. Come by the shop tomorrow, I typed back. We'll talk about what real success looks like. A week later, my mother called, her voice uncharacteristically hesitant. Darling, about our Sunday dinners, would you prefer we have them at your place now? No, I replied, I like coming to the house. But maybe we can stop pretending that success only looks one way. Over the next few months, things shifted. Emma stepped down as CEO of her company, taking a lower position to learn the business properly. Our father stopped bragging about stock portfolios at family dinners, and my mother, surprisingly, developed a genuine interest in vintage fashion. The shop remained open, my beloved side project where I could escape the pressure of being Alexander Stone. Emma started visiting regularly, not to compete or compare, but to actually talk, really talk, for the first time in our adult lives. I still can't believe you let me make a fool of myself for so long, she said one day, helping me unpack a new shipment of vintage channel. You needed to learn something important, I replied, carefully hanging up a 1950s suit. Success isn't about looking successful. It's about building something real, whether it's a tech empire or a vintage clothing shop. She picked up a delicate silk scarf, examining its pattern. Or maybe both. I smiled. Or maybe both. The headlines still refer to Alexandra Stone as a mysterious figure in the tech world. Speculation about her identity appears regularly in financial magazines. But now, when my family reads those articles, they smile knowingly and keep my secret. Success, I've learned, isn't about proving others wrong. It's about being true to yourself, whether that means running a multi-billion-dollar investment firm or carefully preserving pieces of fashion history. Sometimes it means doing both while letting others figure out their own path to understanding what really matters. Last week, Emma brought a client to my shop. My sister, she introduced me proudly, is the most successful person I know. She didn't mention Vertex Ventures or Alexandra Stone. She didn't need to. The vintage shop's bell still chimes every time someone enters, and I still love the sound. It reminds me that sometimes the smallest things can bring the greatest joy, and that success doesn't always need to announce itself to be real. As for Alexandra Stone, she's still making waves in Silicon Valley, but these days she's a little less mysterious at family dinners.